Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new Let's Play of Hearts of Iron 4, The Great War, Sweden. Now, this might be a bit of a jump after our previous playthrough in Millennium Dawn, but that is exactly why I chose to do it. We are jumping to the world of World War I, to a year of 1910, exactly 90 in-game years before the previous playthrough of Ukraine started. Now, apart from the change of scenery, there are two main reasons why I wanted to play Sweden in the Great War mod. First is simple. The Great War is an excellent mod that is quite underrated and deserves more coverage. It quite realistically shows the horrors of the First World War, including the insane casualties the army suffered, both in attrition and in combat. In many other mods, and vanilla alike, you tend to run out of equipment. In the Great War, the numbers are tweaked to inflict massive manpower loss that will slowly force you to go further and further in your draft, slowly withering your economy until you have no one else to send to the front and your lines collapse. There are many that claim World War I was way more brutal than World War II, and it shows here why they think so. Second reason is, I was kind of surprised to find out that there are no Let's Plays of Sweden in the Great War on YouTube. I mean, there are two, but both are unfinished and they follow a different route, one that I am not going to take in this playthrough. So, what is the plan for this Let's Play in short? Well, we are going to play as Sweden, we will join the Central Powers, and we are going to try to tip the scales in our favor. If we win, meaning if the Central Powers win, we will follow up this playthrough with a mod I am completely unfamiliar with, Kaiserreich, changing the layout of the map if possible to reflect Sweden's participation in the victory of the First World War. If the Allied Powers win, we will follow this playthrough with one either in Black Ice, if it's updated, or World Ablaze, a mod I took a liking in recently that has some unique in-depth mechanics that elevates it above other mods that I tried. Now, I would like to look at the history of Sweden, explaining why I think it's a great country to play in World War I and why it is so easy to imagine an alternative history for it. Sweden, at the height of its power in the 17th century, was a true powerhouse. They controlled not only the territory they have today, but also almost entire Finland, parts of Norway, Denmark, northern Germany, almost entire Estonia, and parts of Latvia. This all changed after the turn of the 18th century. The Great Northern War, where the Swedish army was decimated in 1709 at the Battle of Poltava by the Russian forces, started a slow route of territorial decline that ended in the Finnish War, 1808 through 1809, where Sweden was yet again defeated by the Russian forces and lost Finland. And while Sweden has entered a personal union with Norway in 1814 and undergone a vibrant transformation from the rural nation into an industrial economy, this union was peacefully disbanded in 1905, just 5 years before the start of the game, leaving Sweden in the state we find it in at the start of the game, a small, insignificant country in Northern Europe, even in comparison to the likes of Ottoman Empire. Its monarch is weak and restricted, army is extremely small, and industry timid at best. Historically, Sweden has been a neutral in World War I, capitalizing on its large exports of iron ore and timber, and making quite a fortune from trading with both sides of the conflict. It never had to build a large army, as it stayed away from the fighting, and while their forces were well equipped in comparison to the other powers involved in the war at the start of it in 1914, at the end, Sweden changed very little both in numbers and equipment. Again, it had no reason or incentive to do so. So here is what I propose. We are going to change the course of the history and join the Great War. This will require us to focus on building up our industry, strengthening our monarch back into the absolute ruler of Sweden, and reforming the armed forces we have at the start. We will aim to retake the Duchy of Finland and help the Central Powers in their struggle afterwards. Will we win? I have no clue. I never tried this before, and as I foreshadowed in the beginning, manpower will be a massive issue for us. Any protracted combat we will get involved in will bleed us dry, and that's something we simply cannot do. There is also no way to quickly overwhelm your opponent in this era. There are no fast-moving cars or tanks, barely any airplanes, so we will have to bleed for the territory we want. On the other hand, I'm sure we will be rich in resources and trade, and it is definitely worth noting that Sweden had one of the strongest navies outside of the major powers at this era, so that is good and something we can cultivate. And apart from that, we will only have to face Russia, at least in the beginning, a nation that is usually underpowered and quickly overwhelmed by the combined forces of Germany and Austria-Hungary. Well, I think this is a good enough introduction. Now let's go ahead and see what Sweden has in store for us. I would like to welcome you all to Sweden. The date is 1st of May 1910. And as is usual for me, the first episode is going to be dedicated mostly, if not completely, to laying the groundworks. We have to check Sweden. I want to make sure that we understand where we are, we understand the short-term, mid-term and long-term goals, and that we have set a comprehensive strategy that everyone can follow. Now, many of you don't like this, so I would like to invite you to skip ahead to the next episode if it's already up. But to those that want to know where we're heading and how we're going to get there, I would like to say welcome and let's start the game. Now, I took the liberty of checking Sweden beforehand, even though I never played a day of it. Not Sweden, anyway. I played the mod, but not Sweden, just to make sure I know what is going to happen roughly in the game. But again, I never played Sweden, so this is going to be as new to me as to you. What I did though is I investigated some of the parts of the game so that I'm familiar with the setting and we don't really have to go, that deep reading all of the things that are unimportant, but instead we can skim through it in a way that I hope you will find adequate. Let's call it that. So let's start by looking at our government. Now, we don't have that many national spirits. We have just two: neutral foreign policy, which unfortunately makes it quite hard for us to do anything as far as diplomacy goes. But we can eliminate this as we go through. What we can't really eliminate is Russophobia, which lowers our daily political gain by 1, or actually increases our daily political power cost by 1, and division defense on core territory is increased by 10%, which is good, but not very useful for what we are planning here. We are being ruled by Gustav V, which is in line with history. He's a constitutional monarch, giving us extra daily political power gain of 0.1 and weekly stability of 1%. Now, while that sounds great and means that our stability is going to be sky high, the problem comes from the fact that we are not going to get almost any political power throughout the game. Now, this is a pretty interesting malice that we'll have to fight with or through the entire game. That's a weird way to say it, but yeah, unfortunately there's not much we can do with it. Immediately once we select a national focus, we are going to be limited to 0.1 per day, meaning in a month we are getting roughly 3 political power, which is not great. There is, though, quite a lot of national focuses that we can look into, but it's going to be kind of hard to change any of our laws or get any advisors or companies or even military staff. So we'll have to be very picky on what we are going to do and when. Now, when we look at our national focus tree, it is actually quite complex, and I like it. There's a part that is, I think, part of every single tree in the game, which is aviation effort, industrial effort, and naval effort. In our case, the naval effort is modified. We have the modernized Svenska Marinen, which will give us quite a lot of extra naval experience and technology boosts and other various good things. Though, while I wouldn't usually do it, it is not that important for the greater nations. For us, the industrial effort is going to be very useful. Now, it doesn't give you much, to be quite honest. The industrial efforts that you can get will give you one infrastructure in 2 of our provinces. And then in 1911, we are going to get the first tier of airfield expansions, construction effort, armaments efforts, and dockyard expansions, of which the armaments effort is going to give us only 1 military factory, while construction effort is going to give us only 1 civilian factory. It is followed by industrial effort 2, which is accessible in 1912, and then in 1913 we can get additional 1 civilian factory and additional 1 military factory. Again, this is really not a great thing to follow if you are playing, for example, Germany, where you have dozens and dozens of factories. But considering our industrial power, meaning we have 7 civilian factories and I think 2 military factories to start with, getting an extra 1 is going to be a big difference. And we're going to have to be also pretty meticulous in what we are going to produce and when, how we're going to use it. And I guess I'm gonna build our army more around our industrial capacity rather than the other way around, because we are for most part going to be really limited by what we can produce and what we can supply our army with. So we'll have to always keep this in mind. And not only the fact that we have to supply the army, but the attrition in the game is abhorrent. It's insane, and it's going to devastate our units. So we'll need to build a big stockpile, having a lot of extra stuff, both weapons and not resources, but weapons, equipment, and guns and artillery. We'll have to be really careful to not go overboard, because if we go, then our army is going to get castrated by the huge attrition we're going to incur. Trust me on that. I played Austria-Hungary, I played Ottoman Empire. This is awful. So armament effort is going to be really good for us. Same with the construction effort. We're going to use those a lot. And the infrastructure effort is also going to be good for us, because it's going to allow us to build our factories faster. So we need to keep that in mind. Now, I am quite unsure about aviation effort, though. We're going to do it if it pleases us, but World War I was really not... I wanted to say top-heavy. That makes no sense in this kind of English colloquial meaning, but really there wasn't that many airplanes, especially in the beginning, to speak of. Most of the armies introduced large-scale aviation in the second half of the war, and even then I'm not sure how the smaller powers like Bulgaria or even the Ottomans, I don't know how much of aviation effort they actually expended throughout the war. Military modernization is going to be useful for us because it gives us bonuses to equipment and artillery research, but we'll have to be again very careful what we're going to research and when and how we're going to use it. Now again, I keep repeating myself here, I know, but playing Sweden will put a lot of pressure on us to be as efficient as possible. Now, I don't mean to game the mechanics or take unfair advantage, but I just mean that we will really need to think about what we want to do and when. Because the synergies are here, we can take advantage of various stuff, but we need to think this through. Last but not least, there is the diplomatic and political effort. And this is something that will be crucial for us. You have the diplomatic effort already researched. You have some Boden Fortress 1. I'm not sure what this one is. I think we're going to actually read it. This is a fortress to stop or delay attacks from the east. It is made up of 5 primary self-supporting forts excavated out of the bedrock. Okay, but it gives you no actual bonus. It's just army experience. You can expand these by Boden Fortress 2, which gives you a trench in Lapland. And then you get Boden Fortress 3, which gives you a land fort in Lapland. Okay, so it is basically, I guess, about this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or maybe it's like this. I doubt that it would give it somewhere else, so it's going to be definitely in the border, probably outside of the hills here. So these provinces will get trench first, and then they are going to get the land fort. So trench is giving you wait, that's a supply hub. Here's the trench. Can you tell me what bonus it gives? It won't tell me. But land fort gives 15%, so I expect trench to give roughly half of that, so 7% would be realistic. Pardon me, had to take a sip of my coffee. Anyway, we were looking at the trenches and land forts in Lapland, so that is the national focus, Boden fortresses. But that's not the best one. We'll actually need it for retaking Finland, which will give us a conquer focus against Russia. But before that, while I think Boden fortresses are pretty good, we need to make sure that we have the second line here accessible. Central Powers friendship is possible, but you need to get 50% support for Högern. Högern is an authoritarian party in the Swedish parliament. Now, right now they got 28% popularity, so we need to nearly double it. And the way you can double it is by taking political effort and going through the sovereign ethos and then authoritarianism focus, which will start giving you a daily boost of 0.1 in authoritarian support. Or we can get an advisor, and I'm not sure what his name is, but I saw him here somewhere, which gives you 0.1. Okay, so his name is Ludwig Douglas. It's actually, I guess that would be Douglas, unless he is a foreigner. Royalist Bulldog is going to give us additional bonus. So we can upgrade the support for Högern pretty quickly using these two things. But remember that to get this guy, we need 150 political support. Considering we're getting 0.1 per day, Jesus, that means 1500 days worth of political power. Or, not taking any national focuses for quite some time. So this is where the political effort is going to come into play, which will give us some extra political effort. Same with the sovereign ethos, executive constitutional monarchy. It doesn't give you anything, but it leads to absolute monarchy, which gives you an event, we got a new constitution, which I'm not sure what it gives, but it gives extra political power plus 200. And it replaces executive monarchy with absolute monarchy, which gives us a bonus to recruitable population. Fortunately, lowers weaker stability, but not, too much, and gives political advisor cost lowered by 25%, and industrial concern cost lowered by 25%. But industrial research speed and air doctrine research speed is lowered as well. So this is something that we might want to pursue before we actually get our political advisor Ludwig Douglas, because we can lower his cost by 25%, and that is something that's really important for us. Furthermore, there are a couple of interesting things here in the form of disarmament and rearmament. We're definitely going to go for rearmament because that's going to give us an additional military factory, and it will change I think we have volunteer only army? Yeah, volunteer only, which gives us 1.5% of recruitable population. And if it's going to change that, into, what's it called? Limited conscription, which is going to boost it by 1 extra %. So already we know that we can double this number through focuses. Yeah, 2.5 plus the absolute monarchy gives us 0.5 extra. Right now we have a free manpower of 61,000 people. That's great. And we have 40,000 people in the army, which is not great. So total manpower available to us is 91,000 out of 6 million people. Okay, and we are getting roughly 114 people every month. Now, can we see this compared to, say, Austria-Hungary? Austria-Hungary has roughly 430,000 people in the field. So they got 13 to 14 times more people in the field right now than we do. In the case of Germany, they have roughly 800,000 people, which is nearly 30 times more than we do. Yeah, we are a minor. We are a minor, and that is something that we need to keep in mind. So, moving forward, we already said that we do not have that many military factories. We have only 2, which we have dedicated to sport equipment and basic infantry equipment. We're producing roughly 6 rifles per day, which is okay, and I guess we have no stockpile. Yeah, we have no stockpile of anything. We have a couple of trains, some convoys, but the infantry equipment is just starting to pile up, and I'm pretty sure when we look at technology, we are not doing all that hot as far as weapons go. Yep, this is the model 1900, so we are actually behind technology right from the bat. Now, Moser M38 is the starting weapon that we have that one unlocks infantry, and if you look at the AGM42, this one gives us a defense of 13 compared to 9.8. It has 0.3 boost to breakthrough, it has 0.1 boost to heart attack, and it increases soft attack by 0.5. Now, funnily enough, and I'm not a big gun nut, but there is this weapon, Automatgewehr M42, that's researched in 1942, and I have a feeling that that's exactly the same weapon as we have here. When you put into Google M42, it shows you this, and Automatgewehr is the AG here, so I'm not sure if this is correct or if it's a placeholder for future references. Not sure, but it's kind of a thing that caught my eye. So considering we have 3 research slots, we are going to have to be very careful with what we do. Actually, I think we can get more through national focuses, but not anytime soon. Yeah, there's an extra research slot here that's available in 1916, and another one coming in 1918. And then you get some bonuses here from Finnish affairs and stuff like that. But considering the game is eligible to run all the way through the Second World War as well, I have a feeling that the Finnish affair is just something that you need to deal with later into the future. Now, I'm pretty sure we're gonna run slightly over, maybe to 1919, maybe to 1920. So this is about the outreach that we can expect in the playthrough. So we don't have any special forces researched. We have very limited amount of technologies here. Resources, that's another good thing before we go through the research. You can see that we have a ton of steel, we have some tungsten, some chromium, and a huge amount of wood, but we have no oil. And I don't think we can actually get refineries anytime soon. Not to mention that refineries are not that good. Not that good. Wait, let me see if I can see it here. Yeah, oil production, we can get fuel gain per oil and fuel gain from refineries. But yeah, we cannot get refineries before 1916. and then it's not going to be something that's going to change a huge amount for us. Considering we're going to be fighting mostly in the forests here, I really think it's a good idea to focus on infantry, pure like infantry, not really complicate our situation by trying to introduce motorized or anything like that. Maybe we'll do some tanks. Still, I'm not sure that it's a good idea because, again, it's going to be a harsh winter here, very hard to move, and I don't know if we can see infrastructure, but yeah, infrastructure is not going to be that high. Well, Sweden has it pretty good. I'm not sure if we can see it here. 60. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2. Well, it's not bad, but the northern Finland is going to be nightmare. Even the area of Murmansk and Onega is going to be a nightmare to fight in. So the research is going to be limited mostly to infantry, and we'll see, maybe we'll use some mountaineers or someone else. We have only 2 support companies available at the start, recon and military police. Which is not great for us. Now, the thing is, field hospitals I'm not entirely sure about. They're great because they're going to give us quite a lot of trickle back, but the manpower needed just for the field hospital and the supply use is going to be quite a major thing for us. Now, again, it would be, we have 2 choices. We can go with bigger divisions that are going to be heavily supported, or we can go with smaller divisions that are going to be more mobile, suffer less attrition, but will be more vulnerable. There's no way we can support, for example, 16 divisions with field hospitals. That's going to bankrupt our economy. So we'll need to think about this strategically, and I do not have an answer for now. The one that we actually do want, though, is the engineer company, because their defensive bonus is going to be super important for us. Engineers are the ones that dig trenches, and they allow you to entrench your units downright. There is no entrenchment, I think, on the basic infantry at all. I think we can check it here. Entrenchment, constant support, trickle back. Yeah, entrenchment 0. So our units can entrench unless they have an engineering support. So that is something that we will definitely need our units equipped with. Now, if we get the engineering company 2, they're great in both attacking and defending at forts, but they mostly increase the entrenchment, which is going to be super useful for us. Same with recon, that is pretty good. Armor, as you can see, is so limited to 2 types of armor, actually 3 types of armored car. Well, those are great. They give you a huge boost to breakthrough. Again, I don't think we are able to use them. Not only do we not have enough for fuel, but we don't have the capacity to either research this or use this in the forests of northern Finland. Artillery is where we are going to shine, though. Artillery in this game is what kills infantry. While infantry has a huge amount of defense, they're mostly defensive, artillery is what gives you the punch. So having quite a lot of soft attack for your units is where you need to go. So this is what we're gonna try to get. As you can see, hard attack, not that much. Now, it would be amazing if we could get siege artillery, because as you can see, those increase defense and soft attack. But the fact that one piece of regular artillery costs 2.4, while the siege artillery costs 12.5, just tells you immediately that we are probably not going to be able to get the siege artillery. And they even have a malice to speed as far as our units go, I think. So these, yeah, I would like to get them, and we actually have what we need for those, but I'm not sure we'll be able to do it. But again, the strategy will have to come through with. Okay, industry. There's not much to say about industry. There are quite a lot of interesting technologies here. There's one that gives you construction boost, supply consumption, factories in state and output. There are efficiency caps and stuff like that. But it is worth noting that most of these things give you a minuscule boost. For example, the boost to construction speed is only 2%. That is nothing in the scale of the game. Together with the second one, you get a 4% speed boost in construction. It's just nothing. But it gives us the access to resource upgrades, which is the underground mining 1 and underground mining 2, which is way more valuable. So I'm looking forward to those. The one important one for us is going to be heavy industry, which immediately boosts our output by 10% and gives us a bonus to factories in a state of 10%. Believe it or not, we might actually run to the extent that we can build factories. So having the heavy industry 1 and 2 is going to benefit us greatly. As far as engineering goes, again, we can get boosts here to research, but they're minuscule. Like, this is 109 days for a 1% boost. On the other hand, chemical studies give us access to mustard gas, which increases the breakthrough of our units by 12% and soft attack of 6%. So it is worth it. Not sure if we're going to go with the tanks. I don't know if we're going to have the capacity. These are extremely long technologies that we'll need. I mean, they would give us the punch that we need to get. The armor here is really good. You can see that the defense is, minuscule, but breakthrough is amazing, soft attack is amazing, and I think that the heavy tank here, manpower, this is, wait, is this an attachment, or, not entirely sure, but yeah, these things are amazing. The piercing, the heart attack, these things are infantry killers. And we can even get access to the light tank if we want to, so these would also be pretty good with the soft attack and breakthrough bonuses. I don't know. It's up to us to see what we're gonna get. Last but not least, there's the Navy. The Navy is quite a big, proud thing for Sweden. We have the Svenska Flottan, which is equipped with 12 battleships, 1 heavy cruiser, 5 light cruisers, 6 destroyers, and 5 submarines. So again, as I mentioned in the intro, Sweden has a huge fleet that is comparable to, well, it's not exactly comparable, but if if you look at the major powers, Sweden is right behind them. It's not a major power, but its fleet can rival them in some cases. So it is a question if we do want to work on that. Now, again, we're not going to be able to fight the Royal Navy, but we can pretty much... I don't know what Russia has. That is a question. I think they might have quite a big navy here as well. But the fight for Balt might be something that we could try to win. We'll see. Then we're going to have to keep our supply lines open to Germany because they are going to rely on us as far as the import of steel goes eventually. So, yeah. So let's look at the army. We looked at the navy. There's no air force, of course. I think I skipped that in the research as well. There really isn't much to speak about here. The first fighters come in 1915. The early fighters. Then the early fighters 3 and 4 come in 1918 and 1919. You can see the difference here between the early fighter 2, which is air defense of 3, while the early fighter 4 has 5, air attack 6 compared to 8. Superiority 1, so they are not that different. You can just keep producing some and work with those, but again, that's up to you. Unfortunately, the tactical bomber is going to come earliest at 1915. But it's kind of interesting to see that their air defense is much higher. Air defense 3 compared to 13. Agility is awful though, air attack is awful. Strategic bombing is pretty high, so we might focus on just the early bombers and hope that we are not going to get swamped. Or, we could alternatively try the airships, though they have just the strategic bombing here. So no. So we'll see. Anyway, let's do an overview of the army next. We have 8 infantry divisions. And by division, I mean this is probably like a battalion. They got 4,000 manpower. No support, so yeah, you can see the defense is extremely high. Soft attack is 6 and breakthrough is only 4. Now, if you can read these stats, it basically means that you are extremely good in defense. You can kill the enemy, but you cannot push through. If you attack, the math doesn't exactly work like this, but if you attack, you take pretty much 10 times more casualties than you take when you're defending. That's how you can read it if you want. It's not how it works, but it should give you an idea of what we're looking at here. So, wow. Anyway, these 80 divisions that we have are going to be the core of our army. They are pretty green, nothing really to write home about. On 2 of these divisions are trained, so we're gonna keep producing weapons for a bit, and then we are going to drill these guys. Having units drilled to the maximum potential is going to be extremely important here, because every little bonus that we can put on our units against Russia is going to be just super important. Okay, so I think we can wrap the episode here by giving ourselves some first orders. So what are we going to do with here? Now, I need to see, do we have places where we want to build the factories? We do. We have... well... You do not have that much infrastructure. Where would we get the... Västergotland and Småland. So, okay, that is here, and Västergotland is here. So I can start building a civilian factory in Söderland, and then we can maybe build another one in Lapland somewhere, or maybe on Gotland. Wait, no, I'm building wrong. This is infrastructure. We want factories. So we'll build one in Svaland, and we cannot build anything in Gotland. Okay, so only one factory is allowed in Svaland, so we're going to start with that one. It's going to be ready in a year. Okay, so that is pretty good. That frees up our time from industrial effort, which will take 70 days, then another 70 days. So that's roughly 140, so that's pretty much 5 months. It's May, so that would be October, and then armament effort. So we got time to do one thing before we go to construction and armaments effort. So what could we do here? We could get the political effort. That's 70 days. And that would give us 100 political power, allowing us to get maybe some of the advisors here. Though we mentioned that we don't want to do that. We mentioned we don't want to do that before we go through this entire... Do we have a limit on political power? I don't think so. So we can just keep it already. So... if we went to the absolute monarchy immediately, that would be what? 70s, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's roughly 300, so a year. It would take us a year to get to absolute monarchy. Okay. So I mean, that's not bad. It would give us quite a lot of political power to play with, and then we would be able to focus purely on industrial effort, and then we could go with military modernization and naval modernization. Or I could start by building some dockyards, then go with industrial effort, and then we can go with political effort. I think that might be the best choice here. That might be the best choice here. Okay, let's start with this. Modernize the Svenska Marinen. Combustion-powered ships have begun to shine above their contemporaries and have heralded yet another new era of naval warfare. Huge ships with equal large guns fighting at incredible engagement ranges is slated to be the order of the day. Due to this, a modernization program for our ships as well as training in the new ways of warfare for our officers is most certainly in order. So this is going to give us extra 25% naval experience, and we're going to get 3 naval dockyards. So let's start with that. We are going to set our research on... Well, we need the output. We don't need the oil. We don't need a trench. So let's go with chemical studies. Let's go with metallurgy schools. Heavy industry. Poof. I mean, there's another thing or 2 things that we could get to research, but again, this is to get a 3% bonus, and it's just not worth it unless we get immediate access to something else, which here it's not. So let's go with Heavy Industry 1. It's going to increase our output by 10% and give us extra 10% factories in the state. Heavy industry is an industry that involves one or more characteristics such as large and heavy products, large and heavy equipment, and facilities. And last but not least, I'm thinking either we go with metallurgy schools or we go directly to guns and start researching a better gun, because the longer we produce this old one, the worse we will be for wear. So... I mean, 2% is nothing to write home about. And then we're gonna get another 2%, so that is not something we would be really crazy about. So construction and... No, we're doing good for resources. So I really think we're gonna go with the gun here. Wait, that is wrong. Let's do it this way. So we're gonna get the weapon. What does it say here? Personal and crew serve weapons for infantry, as well as the various other bits of kit a soldier needs. Okay, good. So that's for our guns. Now, as far as the dockyards go, we haven't really checked the Navy. I'm gonna have to look into that a bit more in depth. So I'll do that in between episodes. But for now, I think we can just produce a couple of convoys for this moment. How many dockyards do we have? 3. Okay. So we can start producing convoys. That's good. We're going to be producing some basic infantry equipment, some support equipment. I'm fine with that, even though I'd much rather start producing field artillery. But again, we might make this our priority and look at a better... No, we need 1914. Okay, so this one we will have to use. This is actually pretty good. The horse-drawn vehicles are going to be only good as logistic support. I don't really have any intentions of building early motorized or, any kind of motorized units, so let's not deal with that. And as far as our units are here, we are going to put them into a new army, which is going to be part of the new army group. We're going to call this Swedish Army, and the army group is going to be called Swedish army as well. Okay, let's call this Army of Sweden. I'm gonna try to translate this into Swedish, but if anyone watching this is Swedish, you can post that in the comment section. So who do we have here? Field Marshal Schmidt, giving us extra bonus to attack, defense, supply consumption. I don't think any of these actually work for us. You have access to defensive doctrine, organization first, and charismatic. Well, considering you're the only field marshal we can get, that's pretty simple. And what about the generals? Damn, you guys suck. All of these, they got a level 3. But all of those guys have just 1 in attack, defense, punting, and supply consumption, and no traits. There are only 2 generals that have any kind of traits, which is General von Mattern. Winter attrition minus 50. Okay. What's the difference? Attack 2.5, defense 2.5, supply 2.5, planning speed, max planning. Yeah, it's the same, but you got winter attrition minus 50 and winter expert. Cold acclimatization. Okay, you are going to be the general for our units because winter is going to be our biggest enemy. That is, without a doubt, what's going to happen. And we have no divisions in basic training, which is fine by me, because if we want to train anyone, we have absolutely 0 equipment to give them. So we'll keep that for now. I'm actually not even going to drop the units. We're going to wait until we get a bit of equipment here to be able to do some training and reinforce them. So we've set the research. We've set our production, well, not that we had any choice. We are starting to construct. That is good. Trade is okay. Again, please keep an eye, and I want to mention that again, on oil 0. So while we are getting slight amount of fuel every day, 96, we do not have any fuel source of our own, nor is there any fuel source nearby, to be completely frank. I do not see. Yeah, there's oil here. That's the closest one we can get to an oil field. Actually, Germany has some oil, okay. But nothing for us as far as oil goes. Okay, so our army will just have to be fully dependent on light infantry. No oil. It's going to be hard enough to keep our fleet going, though, again, imports are a thing. And I think even Germany could, send us a bit of oil, though. Nothing. So, yeah, keeping the trade lanes open to United States for as long as possible is going to be beneficial for us. Okay, thank you very much for joining me. This has been a long introduction to Sweden. In the next episode, we are going to start playing, actually. We're going to start going at a reasonable fast pace, because this is going to be long 4 years of nothing happening. There's the fight in the Balkans, and there are some conflicts between various great powers. So, it's not going to be all, hugs and roses. It's going to be fights and wars. But as far as Sweden is concerned, we're just going to do our thing, slowly turn ourselves into a militarized or semi-militarized or tiny militarized absolute monarchy in preparation for attack against Russia. So, yeah, I think that's a good plan. I hope you agree, and I'll see you in the next episode.